Hey, what's up, garden friends? What exactly did I think was in focus when I started this? Here we go, kind of. How's everybody doing? I hope you're good. I am great. Off to a fantastic start. Happy Fern Friday! And once again, tonight's special guest are the cicadas. It's been silent out here all day, literally. As soon as I sit down to record, they start chirping along. Chirping, singing, what exactly would anybody describe that noise as? Doesn't matter, that's not why y'all are here. I'm sorry, I just got very distracted because I just found a frog in my dog's water fountain. See him? Just hanging out on the pipe? Oh, how cute. Let's talk about ferns. Crocodile ferns, to be more specific. I just picked these guys up. Well, I didn't pick them up. I ordered them off eBay like a couple weeks ago when I announced that Fern Friday was coming back. But they did just show up in the mail. They're still in their little nursery pots right in there. So I went ahead and just dropped into something a little bit more decorative for the sake of the video. I'm going to go ahead and tilt that one a little bit so it's easier to get on camera. Microsorum musifolium, the crocodile fern, synonymous with Polypodium musifolium as well. A true tropical fern. They are epiphytes, meaning that they tend to grow on other surfaces and take up a lot of their nutrients through their foliage as opposed to their roots. They're more there to anchor them to something. Hardy zones 10 and up, they like a very moist and humid environment. And staying true to most ferns, they don't like a lot of light. Filtered bright light's fine for the most part. A low light plant. I haven't grown the crocodile fern in a very long time. These have been around for a while, so I was really surprised to see that they've become almost trendy, really. I'm seeing them become very popular, which is great. I had one many years ago and I got kind of bored with it. It was a beautiful plant, but it just didn't do anything. And it was a struggle keeping that thing alive in the winter time. Where I live, it has to go inside. The winter air is very, very dry, and kind of like with a maidenhair fern, they like it very humid. And they don't like their soil to dry out for too terribly long either, but they're more forgiving than a maidenhair fern. So, knowing all those things, I got on eBay and ordered 3 of them. That was smart, right? Well, it's a little bit different now because I have a grow space that stays fairly humid during the winter time where I can keep these, and I got 3 so I can kind of play around with them a little bit, keep them in different spots, see which ones they do better. And one of them I think I'm actually going to put not in my fish tank, but like I have a refugium, which is the filter that sits underneath the fish tank, and there's a bright light down there. I was thinking about putting one down there and seeing how it does. It's pretty humid and there's like some little pops of air that come up that help keep the soil nice and moist. But I don't know, we'll see. They get that name crocodile fern from the very heavy tessellation on the foliage. It's in the veining of the leaves. These 3 that I got here, they really, it's nothing compared to some of the more mature ones I've seen. These have very, very mild tessellation. Tessellation meaning veining that leads to patterns. Typically, I think tessellation is like polygons, I don't know. But it's uninterrupted patterns that don't really overlap. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, the 3 that I got off eBay, they don't have it that much compared to a lot of the others. And these are still small. These are very, very small. They're in 4-inch pots. They still have plenty of growing to do. Typically, the crocodile ferns, the Microsorum musifolium, they have a much more of a dark green glossy foliage. The more light they get, then they'll kind of go into more of this silvery, almost blue color, and that's really more of a defense than anything. And I will say, these look more green on camera. They're a very light green in person. Like I said, almost silvery blue. So they're not going to be getting quite as much light where I'm going to keep them, so hopefully that will help out with that. With most ferns, it's usually a good idea to repot them once they arrive in the mail. These though, they're very, very soft. These are not rooted in here very heavily at, yeah, see? Not heavily at all. And I don't hate this mixture that they're in. It's a nice organically rich potting mix that has rice hulls in it, which helps improve aeration and drainage. It doesn't break down too terribly fast, so while I would typically go ahead and repot something like this right away, I'm gonna go ahead and wait. I'm gonna give them the rest of the summer. It's late July right now. I'll give them the rest of the summer and see how they do. If it looks like towards late September that they need to be repotted, then I will, and I'll be doing it immediately because there's only gonna be like maybe a month left of warm temperature at that point for them to keep going. Typically mid to late October is when I start to harden my plants off to bring them inside, so that's not really the ideal time to be repotting them. Alright, so I'll talk a little bit about how I'm going to be taking care of these ferns. Now, like I said, the crocodile fern's like a very organically rich, well-drained potting mix, something that will still hold on to a little bit of moisture, but not stay sopping wet for a really long time. They don't like to dry out. You shouldn't let them dry out. It's not like a bird's nest fern where even though they're a moisture lover and they like a really nice, wet, humid environment, they're also going to be pretty tough through drier times and drier soils. Not necessary with this one. And it's not quite as bad as like a maidenhair fern, but care-wise, as far as keeping up with the humidity and watering's fairly similar, but they're not going to fall to a demise as soon as they get kind of dry. Typically, the best time to repot a fern is like late spring, early summer, once like right about when the active growth starts to happen. And with a true tropical, if you live in the tropics and they're in constant active growth, even though they still kind of have rest periods, that's a different story. But if you're keeping this as a house plant like I am, then it's really more, the real variable is when does the day get longer and when does it get warmer. When you start to get those longer days and warmer days as well, that's when it's time to go ahead and repot them, and that's also when to divide them as well. These divide very, very easily. You know what, I got 3 of them. Let's just go ahead and tear one up real quick, just for the sake of the video. Because you can see here, there are multiple plants in here. So to divide it up, what I would typically do is find the area in here where the plants are separate. And then I take a very clean, sharp, and sterile knife and just cut right through there. These are actually still pretty close together, so I'm not going to bother dividing it up right now. I thought I was going to for the video, but now that I've been in there and seen it, I don't think that would be a very good idea. Great camera work there. Those growths are still really close together. I'd like for them to be a little bit bigger before dividing them up. That way there's the potential to have a good amount of root on each piece that's being segmented out. Even though it's an epiphyte, so it doesn't need a ton, there should still be more to it than what I was seeing there. But yes, it is easy to do. Now there's dirt all over my little bamboo stand. With these being epiphytes, I don't really see why this couldn't be grown mounted on something as well. It should do okay as long as it has enough root structure to grab onto something. And then I will also be keeping mine where they get bright and direct light. So an east or west facing window would be good, not too close to the glass. My glass is kind of drafty, so no drafts, whether it's from air vents, windows, anything like that. Really a great place for these are brightly lit bathrooms and kitchens, because the humidity tends to be a little bit higher in there, so you don't have to worry about keeping the air moist around it as much. The pebble tray is always an option. Put a tray underneath the plant, put some pebbles in there, fill it with water, but make sure the bottom of the pot is not in contact with the water, because that will wick it up too much and can create like an anaerobic situation, and it's not great for the plant. Ideally, what happens is that water evaporates out and raises the relative humidity around the plant, which it does and it doesn't. Like if you have airflow, a lot of that humid air gets pushed away from the plant before it even gets up there, but it does help. It can make a big difference. Also, small cheap humidifiers work wonderfully. So if the air is really dry, if the outer edges of the leaves are browning and getting crispy, but the soil isn't terribly dry, like if you're watering it on a consistent basis, that means that it needs more humidity. Like I said, pebble tray, humidifier, keep it in the bathroom, near a fish tank, anywhere where the air is a little bit more moist. That will help solve that problem. Oh, and how could I forget this? If humidity is a problem, you can also mist the plant. That's like one of the best parts about these videos, right? Getting that nice slow motion shot with the mist. Go ahead and mist them. If you get white spots or anything after it dries, means your water's a little bit hard, or there's a lot of dissolved solids in there. Maybe try using a purified water instead. As with all houseplants, keep the foliage clean, so that way there's nothing blocking the reception of UV rays into the plant cells, so it can be converted into energy. And also they can transpire properly and all that fun stuff. Keep the foliage clean. Also, when you have these inside, be sure to rotate the pots probably every other week so that the growth stays nice and even. Fertilizing. Microsorums, the Microsorum musifolium, and there are, I think pretty much all of the Microsorums. I'm pretty sure. What I was gonna say is they are pretty much all epiphytes, and when something is an epiphyte, that's when I'm even more cautious about fertilizing. I'm still going to fertilize on a regular occasion with a plant like this when it's in its active growth. So for me, that means May through probably early to mid-September. There are 2 different ways I can fertilize. Typically, I will just do every other week, but ideally I will fertilize weekly with a quarter to half strength diluted fertilizer for the plant. If I'm doing it every other week, which is just twice a month, then I'll just dilute it by about half. Plants really like consistency, so being able to it's just hard to remember, to be honest, to fertilize every single week. But when I have done that, that's when you get the best growth out of the plant. And I'm not talking about using like Miracle Grow. That's when I'll use something like a seaweed fertilizer, and I'll make sure to amend the soil with things like worm castings and things to help keep it organically rich. But with them being epiphytes, you just have to take it down a notch. That's the thing, because the roots will burn. I'm not trying to shade Miracle-Gro either. Go ahead and use that. Use whatever all-purpose fertilizer you want to use. Just make sure that it is diluted. And remember, salts build up in soil. So if you're using a soluble fertilizer that's not a liquid, it's one of, you know, like a salt. You know what I'm talking about. If that's what you're using, doing that every single week, even at a quarter strength, probably want to make sure every 6 weeks or so to flush the soil. Help make sure there aren't salts building up and accumulating in there. Yeah, you get the point. Just be careful with the fertilizers. Don't go overboard. Take it easy on them, but keep it consistent. And then again, if someone's growing them the same way I am, where they're going to be outside when it's warm and then inside the house when it's cool, then that's when I like to stop fertilizing, like I said, early September, so that they have a good 6 to 8 weeks to harden off, because I move them back into my house usually around mid-October. In this case, they'll be going into my grow space, where it'll be very humid. They'll be underneath grow lights. I am going to probably keep, like I said, one in my bathroom, one near my fish tank, one in the grow space, just to kind of see how, like, the different ways they'll grow. But Microsorums, they're just a moisture-loving fern. And I know Microsorum's an entire group. It's not just this one. In fact, one of the reasons I like this fern so much is actually because it looks so much like its cousin, the Java fern, which I grow in my fish tank. Many people grow in their fish tanks. It's an excellent, easy to grow plant for a tropical aquarium. If you have a fish tank, I highly suggest trying it, because they grow very well, and they look very similar to this, just underwater. Enough so to the point where it's even made me wonder if potentially the Java fern, that Microsorum, if that could be grown as a marginal plant, because there are a lot of aquatic plants where you grow them underwater, but you can also grow them above water, or like right in between. And it's kind of cool because the growth habits will be completely different. Sometimes the speed of the growth will be completely different. I know, like, there are lots of mosses. I've had Java moss in my fish tanks and Christmas moss and a bunch of them, and they'll creep up the sides of the tank, and then they'll grow around the rim of the aquarium and look really cool, completely different than they would underneath the water. Sorry, I know that seems like it's neither here nor there, but it's all relative to me talking about the cousin of this plant, the Java fern. As far as pests are concerned, I haven't really found much indicating that there's a certain type of insect or anything that's really drawn directly to this fern specifically, but as with most ferns, scale and mealybug are probably a good one to watch out for. Because these guys like moisture so much, or I'm sorry, they don't have to be. You don't have to, you can be whatever you want to be. As far as the ferns are concerned, like a lot of moisture, which would tend to be something that if they're getting that, would help keep things like spider mites away from them. Having a more humid environment with a okay amount of airflow does help deter insects like spider mites. These are tiny. These get so much prettier when they get bigger. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I was a little bit disappointed with them when they showed up in the mail, but hey, these were only $4 a piece. That's why I ordered 3 of them, because shipping was $12. So I was like, well, may as well fill that box up and have some to play with and experiment with. Right? What some of your experiences have been with the Microsorum musifolium, with the crocodile fern? Comment that down below. Or just say hi, I love talking to y'all. Tips, tricks, you know the drill. Get a conversation going. It's Fern Friday. It's good to everybody to put in their input on the plant. What are some of your observations? Some struggles you've had? Maybe there'll be other people down in the comments there who can help you out with that. What specific fertilizers do you like to use? Have you noticed that when you keep it one place, it does better than in another? That's what I love about the comment section. People can conversate, obviously, and learn and grow together. That's one of my favorite parts about making these videos. Everybody connecting and getting their plant nerd on. I'll post updates on my social media, which is linked down below. I use Instagram like way more than anything else. That's the best place to get a hold of me. I'm sure y'all know the YouTube drill, right? You can give the video a thumbs up. I appreciate it. Subscribe as well, and hit that notification bell, because I upload multiple times a week, and that way you'll know when new videos come out. Alright, thanks everyone for hanging out. I'm having another fun Fern Friday. Hey, and I hope everybody's doing well, having a great day, great life. Everything's just going beautifully for you. Alright, and of course, as always and most importantly, everybody, keep on growing. Bye bye.